Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadev, the ThunderWizard. All right, so I'm continuing in my series of responding to your comments and your questions. And so in this installment, I'm going to tackle two things. Number one, how to deal with really negative thoughts and why I am so seemingly critical, why I'm so harsh. We're going to talk about that. First, let me tackle the first one. So, I won't give the exact comment because I'm not looking to, single anybody out or expose anybody. But somebody asks a question having to do with how to deal with extremely negative thoughts. And my response was, well, let me just give you my thought about it. My response was my response. But my feeling about really negative thoughts, like thoughts having to do with self-harm or really self-critical thoughts, like, debilitating self-critical thoughts, having thoughts of self-shame. I understand this, I have experienced this, and I still experience that. These are things that still happen to me. And so if I give my first answer, it may sound like I'm saying to just deny these feelings. So my first response to that is, instead of focusing on those feelings, focus on what it is that you truly want and how you can go and make your life the best, most satisfying life it can be. Now, at first glance, that may sound like I'm saying, oh, just don't pay attention to those thoughts. Oh, don't think that way. And that's not what I'm saying. You should always feel all of your thoughts. You should have all of your feelings. Allow yourself to experience them. Do not deny them. Do not shove them down. If you do, they will go into your unconscious and they will manifest in ways that you're not aware of. And it will always be not only destructive to you, but destructive to other people. So it's extremely important to always be aware of your negative feelings, even if they're feelings of self-harm or feelings of shame or self-criticism, lack of self-worth. You should have those feelings and feel them, and then you should parent yourself. Imagine if a little child comes to you and has these feelings. You would pick them up and you say, why do you feel that way? And then you would say, it's okay to have these feelings. I love you. I accept you. And by doing that, you would give the little child what's called individuation, an ability to have their own feelings and still know that they have worth and they can love themselves and parent themselves through that. So learn how to do that yourself. It's very simple. There's all kinds of techniques. One is to imagine a little version of yourself sitting on your chest and you tell yourself those same things. You can close your eyes and imagine your inner child coming to you with all of these negative self feelings, and you parent yourself and love yourself through it. So that is the first thing, and if I don't say that enough, hopefully I will in the future. But acknowledge, accept, and love yourself with all of your feelings. Do not deny your feelings or shame yourself out of them. That only causes more destruction. The second thing is, that you could spend a lot of time really indulging in negative feelings and talking about it. And that has the potential of creating a victim mentality. So the thing about that is, like if you go to a therapist, which, by the way, I have one, but if you go to a therapist and all you want to do is talk about your feelings of self-harm, then the only thing that'll happen is you might become aware of why you have these feelings, what your parents did, and there's nothing wrong with that, except that that in itself will not bring any cure. In my experience, the way out of negative self-thought is by taking positive action towards what gives you a feeling of happiness and joy and self-worth, and gives you passion and a reason to live in this world. If you don't know what that is yet, then that's a whole other exploration that we could take. Finding what your true soul desire is. And by taking action on what gives you happiness, whatever it is, what gives you reason to live, it gives you inspiration to live today, that is more powerful than just trying to look at why you have negative feelings about this or negative feelings about that. I'm not saying not to do that. That's very necessary, but it's just there really is only one way out, and that is to fully engage with life. In fact, I heard somebody say that your T cells in your body respond to people who are fully engaged in life. When you retreat from life, it's a signal. It tells your body to stop protecting you. And this is, again, one of the things that creates illness or even speeds illness up. My dad, he was all about his work. He was a physicist, and he was all about his work. And he got cancer. I can't remember his exact age, but he got cancer, and he went and got operated on, and they took it out, all that. He lived that way, cancer free for a really long time, but he was working the whole time. But the moment that he decided to retire, I remember this. Here's what happened. He made the decision to retire from his job, which was his reason for living. Working as a physicist. It was his entire reason for living. He made the decision to retire. He was dead within 6 months. He made the decision to retire. Cancer came back, killed him faster than anything, because he wasn't fully engaged in his life. And, maybe he had just decided he was done with life. It doesn't matter. But if you want to be healthy and you want your body to give you the ability to fight off illness and disease and keep you strong and healthy, you must be fully engaged in your life. And you can't do that if you don't know what it is that you want to accomplish. I just watched last night a documentary. I recommend it. It was called The Alpinist. And it was about a guy. I'm going to, as spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear the end, don't listen any further. Stop listening now. But it was about a guy who was, if this is a guy who climbs without any ropes, and he climbs the biggest, most dangerous mountains in the world, that even the highest, most guys that master alpinists look at and go, what the heck is that guy doing? And this is all that he lived for. He didn't have a cell phone, didn't have any money, didn't have a place to live. He just traveled around the world and climbed these crazy mountains. I couldn't watch it, the parts where he was on the mountain. It's very hard for me to watch because I have fear of heights, so it was very difficult. And after he had done the impossible, like gone far beyond what any human being has ever done in solo free climbing of huge mountains. After doing that, there was really nothing left for him to do. He had broken the ceiling. There was nothing more that he could physically accomplish. And he went and climbed a mountain with a friend of his, and there was an avalanche, and it killed him. And I walked away so inspired, because that's what I want. I want to experience everything that I can possibly experience. And I want to, when I die, I want to go, yeah, I did it. I did everything. There's nothing left for me to do. I've done it. So it's very clear to me. It's not a tragedy. That guy went after life with everything that he had, fearlessly. He accomplished exactly what he wanted. And then he died doing what he loved. And he was young and healthy. And I mean, that's a perfect life. Not necessarily that exact thing, but to live like that fearlessly and know exactly where your focus is and to have accomplished it, that's the perfect life. And that's what I want for myself, which is what I want for you. So let me get to the second part of it. I am harsh with you and direct with you, not because I look down on you. You may feel like I'm criticizing you, and I understand that. That's just my way. That's just the way that I show. I show annoyance, not because I feel superior to you, but because I feel equal to you. And it annoys me when I see people who seem to be choosing not to live to their greatest potential, because I want to do that. And I desperately try every day to try and do that. And I don't do it perfectly. I don't. I fail. I get wrapped up in self-defeatist attitudes. I get wrapped up in my own my own victim mentality. I get wrapped up in all of my programming. And so I get annoyed with myself because it's like, you know what, I can do better, so I'm going to. And I have the same conflict that you guys have. I get into conflict about what it is that I want to do next. I'm currently going through that. I'm not living where I want to live. And I got a little sidetracked with, I got sick with COVID, and I was very depressed having left Australia and not knowing when I'll be able to go back and what can I do that'll be close to that. And so I've been working through my own feelings of sadness and trauma and having to kind of wake myself up and say, hey, you're here now. Make the best of what you have. We can fix whatever the problem is in this life. My problems are fixable. My sister just died of ALS, a horrible disease. Her problems were not fixable. So there's really no reason for me to feel sorry for myself when there are people out there who have problems they can't fix. Any problem I have, totally fixable. So when I am harsh with you, it's because I believe in you. I know that you are at least as able to live your life as I am. And when I see something that looks to me like you are choosing to condescend to yourself, when you are choosing to live at a level below what you are capable of, my response, the way that I show my strong belief in you is it comes out as a criticism. It comes out annoyed. But it's because what I want for you is to be as happy as you can be. I want the best for you. And I know you can do it. Because I can do it, and I'm not doing the best job in the world. I work really hard at it. And I'm not where I want to be yet in my life. And if I can do what I'm doing, you can at least do what I'm doing, if not better. You have the potential to be better than I am. So the point is, I don't condescend to you. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are people out there I get annoyed with who really don't have the ability. I don't know. But I can't tolerate the thought of thinking of you less than me. I can't tolerate it. I believe that you can have the best. I believe that you can be better than me. And I get annoyed if it comes across to me that you're choosing not to, or you're choosing not to believe that. So let me read a comment here. Somebody left a comment. I won't get into it, but I responded. And the person used a phrase that I see a lot of people using now. I mean, again, I'm an old man. I used to say back in my day, but it seems to me, there's some phrases that push my buttons because it means people aren't paying attention to their own language. So let me be clear about it. if English is your native language, you grew up speaking it, you went to school, and you learned English grammar, there's no excuse not to be a master of your own language. Because being able to read and write and communicate effectively is absolutely essential if you want to be happy and successful in this world. And so if you have all of your faculties and you don't have some kind of mental illness or some developmental problem with your brain, and English is your language that you grew up speaking, it's your native language, there's no excuse for not knowing the basics of how to spell and how to speak. There's no excuse. So I don't have any tolerance for that. But there's a few phrases that people seem to be getting wrong more and more, which is sad because it means that the educational system is falling apart, and or people aren't motivated to get educated, and all those things bug the crap out of me because I believe that you can do better, and it's a conscious choice to limit yourself, and there's no reason for it. I believe and expect better of you. So this person uses one of these phrases which I can't stand, which is might have been. Ask me a question and what do you think it might have been? MIGHTOFBEEN. Might have been. So let me ask you a question. When you walk up to somebody and say, how have you been? Do you mistake that for how have you been? No, of course not. That doesn't make any sense. So I write on here, I'm not going to get into the other question, which I gave him a little bit of a hard time for, but I won't get into that. I just simply responded to, forgive me, but grammar is important. There is no such phrase as might have been. The correct phrase is might have been or might have been. Might, M-I-G-H-T apostrophe V-E, might have been. It's a contraction of might have been. And I say, seriously, do people not learn English grammar in school anymore? That's all I said. And I have no problem. You're coming onto my channel, you're interacting with me, and you seemingly, I mean, is it really possible that this person doesn't know that the phrase is might have been? Does he really not know that? If so, how sad for him that his parents didn't know how to speak language or teach him right, or that he didn't learn it in school. How sad for that person. So now I've educated him. You should know that. But it comes across to me as laziness. It comes across to me as somebody who just really isn't putting the effort into learning their language or analyzing what they say. Obviously, I analyze my language. I'm very careful with my words. I would never write might have been. I never say all the sudden or irregardless. These are all things that people say and it's so ridiculous, and it shows such a lack of understanding of your own language. It drives me crazy. In any case, so I said to him, there's no such phrase as might have been. And then I give him the correct one and I say, seriously, do people not learn English grammar in school anymore? And then I went on to respond to his other question in my own inimitable way, which I won't repeat here. And then somebody comes on here. He says, "A man," and he writes "a," like "hey man." He writes it "ay," which again is there's no such word in the English language. He goes, "Hey man, love your channel, but you don't need to lecture every idiot and be a grammar Nazi." Now that's important. I want you to listen to that. What I'm going to reveal to you is this person's self-criticism, his unconscious self-criticism, and his projected condescension and criticism of others, which he couches as wanting to go and protect them. Now, he doesn't know that. He doesn't realize that when you first read that, you don't need to lecture every idiot and be a grammar Nazi. At first glance, it sounds like he's saying, hey, ThunderWizard, have more compassion for people and their limitations. But that's not what he's saying, and I'll explain that to you in a bit. So he says, you don't need to lecture every idiot and be a grammar Nazi. And I say, I don't have to. You're right, but I can if I want to. And you can watch another channel if it bothers you that much. We all have the freedom to do what we want. So I'll do what I want to do on my own channel. And instead of telling me how to act on my own channel, you can do what you want on your channel. And I promise you, I will never tell you how to behave in your own world. So here's the thing. Anybody who I give criticism to or I give advice to, by definition, is not unsolicited advice. Because just by coming onto my channel, watching my videos, and interacting with me in any way, you have, by definition, walked into my classroom. And you, by definition of interacting with me, you have asked for my input and interaction with you. And so I feel I have the right to say whatever it is that I need to say, which is my attempt to be helpful, even with what I just said to that guy. It sounds really abrasive and defensive, right? But the lesson that I'm giving him when I say, I'll do what I want on my own channel, and instead of telling me how to act on my own channel, you can do what you want on your channel. And I promise you, I will never tell you how to behave in your own world. I'm telling him to stop wasting his time. First off, he's not asking me a question. He's not interacting with me in a way where I can be helpful to him. And if he doesn't find anything helpful in what I have to say, then don't waste your time. I mean that. I'm not the only game in town. Why do you want to waste your time listening to somebody that you don't respect? If they don't have something you want, why waste your time? Why waste your time walking into somebody's classroom and telling them how to run their class? Doesn't mean that they couldn't do a better job. It just means it's wasteful. You, instead of telling somebody else how they should run their own classroom, you should go start your own class and do it right. That's what I did. I wrote books that way. I took all of the mistakes that my teachers made, and instead of telling them what they did wrong, I went off and started teaching it the way I thought it should be taught. And so I'm telling you to do the same thing. You be the best person you can be. You see a better way of doing things? Good, you should. The next generation should always improve on the previous one. You see that I'm doing things wrong and I'm locked in my own ways. Don't waste your time trying to correct an old dog. Old dogs don't learn new tricks. You go and do your own thing. Be the best person you can be. But here's the thing about unsolicited advice. The people who give unsolicited advice, and as you know, unsolicited advice is always abusive. But when people give unsolicited advice, it's because they are unaware of themselves. They are projecting onto you the things they don't like about themselves. So, after that response, I basically, again, tell him, and I mean that, it's not meant to be defensive, it's meant to be encouraging. You go do your own life. You go live things the right way. Don't waste your time trying to tell me what to do. His response to that is just something I noticed in many of your comments. Just something to emotionally process and do shadow work on if you want, because you seem triggered. Well, first off, what's wrong with being triggered? What's wrong with that? Somebody pokes me in the arm with a pin and it hurts and I say, ow. Why are you so triggered, man? Well, because you just poked me with a pin and it hurt. There's nothing wrong with being triggered. The only thing that matters is, are you conscious of what you're doing and the responses you give? I am very conscious about what I do. So what he's saying there is that when I tell this individual, there is no such phrase as might have been. The phrase is might have been. Why did you not learn this in school? He thinks I'm being triggered. What you find out from that is that this triggers him. I don't know what. I don't know if his parents used to criticize him for his speech or something. I don't know if he had teachers in school that he felt criticized by. I don't even know if he feels criticized by his speech, but he feels criticized and it triggers him. And so he projects that onto me. I'm not triggered. I don't have to respond to that. I mean, that comment sat there for a few days before I decided to respond. But it's because I'm not the individual who chose to show his ignorance by his seeming willful ignorance to misspell a very common English phrase. My response was to educate him, number one, and to encourage him to make the effort to be a more successful person. Learn your own language, learn how to communicate it properly. That is important if you want to succeed in life. And that's really the message behind that. I just do it in a snarky way. That's just me. But this person is stimulated whenever he sees somebody else he believes being unduly criticized. He feels stimulated. And so instead of being honest about his feeling, which is, hey, ThunderWizard, when you correct people on their grammar, it makes me feel criticized and uncomfortable, which I would have a completely different response to. Instead of that, because he is unconscious about it, he acts out abusively towards me and towards the person he thinks he's protecting. And I'll prove it to you. So he says, just something I noticed in many of your comments, just something to emotionally process and do shadow work on if you want, because you seem triggered. And I responded to him and I said, shadow work, ? Awesome idea. What does your shadow work say about your need to give unsolicited advice about how I treat people other than yourself? Why not explore your feelings of being criticized that you have projected onto my interaction with, and I'll leave this person unnamed. I haven't asked you for your advice. Why do you feel the need to give it to me? I'll answer the question. That's obviously I was giving him a rhetorical question for him to meditate on, but I already know the answer. It's because he feels criticized and he has internalized that feeling of criticism as shame. In other words, he feels angry with himself and he criticizes himself on an unconscious level when he feels whatever triggers him to feel criticized. And this makes him angry. He's unconsciously angry. So what he does is, instead of having the feeling that I have for this person who misspelled this phrase, instead of having the feeling of, yeah, that guy, if he chose to, he could be better. He could do better and it would benefit him. Instead of having that feeling, which is, as I said, I see you guys as my equals. I don't condescend to you. I don't see you as less than I am. If I talk down to you, you can look at it as being, I'm sarcastically pointing out to you that I am not better than you. Why are you acting like you're less than I am? Wake up. Believe in yourself. Own yourself. Stop willfully acting beneath what you're capable of. That's my message. His message is, you're too stupid to figure it out. And he says to me, reply to useless comments with pissed off paragraphs all day if you want. And at some point, let's see, he called him an idiot. He says, you don't need to lecture every idiot. So he just called this person who he's supposedly seeming to protect, he just called that person an idiot, which means that he condescends to that person. He looks down on them. He sees them as less than himself. And that is a projection of how he views himself. So his seeming need to step in and protect this poor stupid idiot from my, as he calls it, what does he call it? My pissed off paragraphs. So he thinks that I'm actually angry and triggered. That means that he gets angry and triggered when he sees in other people the things he doesn't like about himself. And he feels criticized, and he can't tolerate that feeling of self-criticism. So in order to offset that, he jumps in between me, who he sees as an abuser, and the poor, stupid idiot who can't do any better, which is what he wants. He wants people to just let him, be where he's at. He doesn't want people to criticize him. And instead of being honest with me, if we're talking about shadow work, instead of saying, I feel criticized when you respond that way and it makes me angry and upset, instead of that, he projects onto me his feelings of lack of self-acceptance, of self-shaming and self-criticizing. He sees in himself that he is an idiot, and he sees that in other people, and he seeks to condescend to them. You're just a stupid idiot. You can't be any smarter than that. Don't listen to this abusive old guy. So, again, it really is a good idea, if you want to interact with me, to share your honest feelings. And that's also, by the way, if you want to stimulate me to do, as this guy says, shadow work. It's not going to be from giving me unsolicited advice or unsolicited criticism, which you're free to do. It's a free universe. You can do whatever the hell you want. What's going to stimulate me to do shadow work and look at myself is if you talk about your feelings about you. That's going to make me stop and go, wow, what am I doing? Am I doing anything to stimulate, to trigger that? And am I projecting? But coming at me and coming at me with your unconscious projections onto me and to others is not going to achieve what it is that you want. So, to that individual, I say to you, I encourage you to take a look at your feelings of shame, your feelings of self-criticism. I encourage you to look at who made you feel like that who you're really angry at is them, not me, and that when you seek to protect other idiots, it really means that you are co-signing their ignorance and you're co-signing their unwillingness to live up to their potential, which means you want to be given an excuse not to live to your potential because you can't tolerate the feelings of shame and criticism. And none of those things are my problem, which is why unsolicited advice is always abusive. Because it's not my job to fix your internal problems. But if you are able to look at them and do the shadow work, as you say, and be honest with yourself, I will be more than happy to hold your hand in your feelings. And maybe it'll even stimulate me to take a look at myself on a deeper level. But not until you don't be a hypocrite. Don't tell other people to do shadow work when you yourself are completely clueless about your unconscious projection and your unconscious hypocrisy, which we all have. Now you know on a deeper level why I ask people to only give me honest questions and share honest feelings. Okay? Because, again, I see you as equal to me, if not better than me. And if I get annoyed with you, it's because I see that you're not living up to what you could do. And instead of condescending to you and looking down on you and treating you like an idiot, I actually get annoyed with you because you could choose to be better. But you have to believe in yourself. So that's what I want for you, and that's what I want for me. So that's my little lesson for today. We'll see if I show up today for a live stream or not. I wish you guys all the best, and I will see you all very soon.